Hi class, so today we're going to be discussing chapter 5, using household measure in pharmacy calculation. Chapter topics in this section will be just discussing house measure. Our learning objectives are to identify the units of household measure and convert between them. Apply household measure and the metric system to pharmacy calculations. Convert body weight between kilograms and pounds. We'll discuss the rest in the next sections. So what are household measurements? Household measurements is a measurement system used in homes, particularly in kitchens in the United States. The units of household measures for volumes are teaspoonfuls, tablespoonfuls, cups, pints, quarts, and gallons. So household measurements are just basically the measurements we use in our house whenever we're baking or mixing anything and following recipes in a recipe book. So those are just the measurements we use day to day. The units of household measures for weights are ounces and pounds. So table 5.1 states the conversion between each. So 3 teaspoons is equal to 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons is equal to 1 fluid ounce. 8 fluid ounces are equal to 1 cup. 2 cups are equal to a pint. 2 pints are equal to a quart. 4 quarts are equal to a gallon. And that's for volume. And for weight, 1 pound is equal to 16 ounces. So again, you guys need to memorize this information because not only will you see it in quizzes or the final, but whenever you guys do take the national exam, believe me, there will be questions of conversions between these type of volumes. So just kind of like a picture instead of just talking about the wording. So we see here that we have 3 teaspoons will equal 1 tablespoon, and 2 tablespoons will equal 1 fluid ounce. And then 8 fluid ounces is equal to 1 cup. 2 cups is equal to a pint. 2 pints are equal to a quart. 4 quarts are equal to a gallon. So just a visual representation of what table 5.1 was. So there is a growing trend among prescribers and pharmacies to use the preferred metric system for medication dosages. To that end, pharmacies often give patient dosing spoons, droppers, cups, marked with both the metric and the household measurements at minimal or no cost. So we see these type of devices whenever, even if we buy over-the-counter medication, for example, like the Tylenol liquid, the Motrin liquid, we see that sometimes it comes with this little cup. So it'll say 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons, and on the other side, you could barely see it, but there's a 15 ml. So 15 ml is equal to 3 teaspoons. Then you'll have these type of droppers, for example, like for infant medication or child dosing. You'll have the spoon, and again on one side it'll be the household measurements, and on the other side you will find the metric system in milliliters. So teaspoons, milliliters. The same here with the dropper, teaspoon, milliliters. So whenever pharmacy is writing down the directions on how to take it, they will sometimes write both. So they'll write take 1 teaspoon, and in parentheses they'll put 5 ml of so and forth medication every so often. So converting household volume measurements. Like all system, units of household measures can be converted to larger or smaller units. The following examples will demonstrate converting units of volume. So for example, how many teaspoonfuls are in 2 tablespoonfuls? So looking at our tables or figure 5.1, we see that 3 teaspoons is equal to 1 tablespoon. So now we can solve this problem 2 ways, using dimensional analysis or ratios and proportions. So ratios and proportion, you would again set up your numerators the same, denominators the same. So teaspoons on top, tablespoons on the bottom. And we want to know how many teaspoons are in 2 tablespoons. And what we know from our table 5.1 says that 3 teaspoons is equal to 1 tablespoon. So we cross multiply 2 times 3 and x times 1. So x is equal to 3 times 2 is 6. So there's 6 teaspoons and 2 tablespoons. Using dimensional analysis, so you write down, you want to cancel your first numerator from your second denominator, and the answer always that you want will be on the numerator section. So in this case, we wanted to know teaspoons, so that's why 3 teaspoons is on top and 1 tablespoon on the bottom. Multiply by 2 tablespoons, the tablespoons cancel, so 2 times 3 divided by 1 is equal to 6 teaspoons. Next example, how many tablespoons are in 2 cups of medication? So again, looking at our figures and our tables, we know that 2 tablespoons are equal to 1 fluid ounce, and we know also 1 cup is equal to 8 fluid ounces. So here we have to use 2 different types of measurements in order to find out how many tablespoons to cups ratio. Okay, so again, using ratios and proportions, 8 our fluid ounces are on top and our cups are on the bottom. So first we have to determine how many fluid ounces are in 2 cups before we can find out the teaspoons. So x's fluid ounces are on top and cups are on the bottom. X over 2 cups, 8 over 1 cup, cross multiply. X times 1 is x, 8 times 2 is 16, so there are 16 fluid ounces in 2 cups. Now we can use that to use as our to find out how many tablespoonfuls. So then we know that 2 tablespoonfuls are equal to 1 fluid ounce. So x over 16 fluid ounce. So 16 times 2, 1 times x is equal to x. 2 times 16 is equal to 32. So there are 32 tablespoonfuls in 2 cups. So using dimensional analysis, again, we want to put tablespoonfuls because that's what the answer that we want on top as a numerator. So fluid ounces would go on the bottom. So there are 2 tablespoons in 1 fluid ounce. And then we want to cancel fluid ounce, so that'll be our numerator on the top and cups on the bottom. So 8 fluid ounce is equal to 1 cup. And we have 2 cups. Our cups will cancel, fluid ounce will cancel. So 2 times 8 times 2 is 32. Divided by 1 gives us 32. How many 1 fluid ounces doses are in 3 pints of liquid? So now we have to convert 3 different sections. And as you see, whenever you converted 2 different things or 3 different things, for me, it would be best to use dimensional analysis instead of having to do 3 different ratios and proportions in order to get your answer. So using ratios and proportions, our first step is to determine how many cups are in pints. So x cups over 3 pints is equal to 2 cups over 1 pint, because 1 pint is equal to 2 cups from our table. So cross multiply, x is equal to 6 cups. Now, since we know 6 cups, how many fluid ounces are in 6 cups? So we know that in 1 cup there are 8 fluid ounces. So cross multiply, x is equal to 48. fluid ounces. So that's our final answer. So using dimensional analysis, again, you only do one problem and you're just cross multiplying. So 3 pints, 2 cups in 1 pint, 8 fluid ounces in 1 cup. So fluid ounces again is always on top of the numerator. They cancel each other, so 3 times 2 times 8 is equal to 48 fluid ounces. Converting between household measurements and the metric system. So this is something that we will be using in pharmacy, so make sure that you again memorize these conversions. So 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters, 1 tablespoon is equal to 15, 1 fluid ounce is equal to 30, 1 cup is equal to 240, and so forth. And if you see these that have asterisks, you have to remember that in reality, 1 fluid ounce is equal to 29.57 ml. But for the purposes of math, we just like to round it up to 30. The same thing with pints. So 1 pint is actually equal to 473 ml, but we round it up to 480. And that's just basically for us to get kind of like a little more of an estimate and not having to worry about decimals. So again, looking at our figure that we went through earlier, 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 ml. Now this is converting household to metric system and so forth, okay? It is common practice to round a household fluid ounce to 30 ml, which I just talked to you about. When measuring this amount, this estimate is often appropriate because the volume differs by such a small amount. When measuring multiple fluid ounces that have been rounded to 30 ml, however, this discrepancy becomes more apparent. So for an example, the 16 fluid ounces would roughly be 480 ml, which is way over the actual amount, which in the amount would be 473, but we're still using 480. So you are to dispense 300 ml of hydrocodone biocitrate and Tylenol 7.5 milligrams per 500 milligrams per 15 ml solution. The prescription states that the patient is to be taken 2 teaspoons BID. How many doses will the dispense volume contain? So using our ratios and proportions, 1 dose is equal to 2 teaspoons. So 2 times 5 ml is equal to 10 ml. Now determine the number of doses. So there are X doses over 300 milliliters, but we're taking 1 dose is equal to 10. Cross multiply, divide by 10 on both sides, so that will give us 30 doses. If we use dimensional analysis, it's 300 ml over 1. 1 dose is equal to 2 teaspoons. 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 milliliters. So our milliliters cancel, our teaspoons cancel, and we're left with 30 doses. Theophylline elixir contains 80 milligrams per 15 ml. How many milligrams are in 1 dose of theophylline? So ratios and proportions. So 1 dose is equal to 2 tablespoons. 2 times 15 ml is equal to 30. 80 milligrams per 15 is our concentration. X milligrams over 30, cross multiply. X is equal to 160. Using the dimensional analysis, 2 tablespoons per 1, 15 ml per 1 tablespoon, 8 milligrams per 15, cancel our units, and then we're left with 2 times 15 times 80 divided by 15 gives us 160 milligrams. So that's the end for this section, and we'll move on to the next section. Oh, no, sorry. Converting weights. So medications are sometimes based on the weight of the patient. So increasingly we have to make sure that whatever dosing we have to convert the patient's weight into kilograms. So